We've got to get the bones of the house right first. We all know when you walk into a French-style home, or if you've walked into a chateau in France, what do you see? It has the black and white check floors. And if you don't have that in your foyer, you're getting off on the wrong foot.
A black and white floor. That's where it's at. So keep that in mind. If you want to do your foyer and look French, it's a black and white floor.
So that's number one. Wood floors typically throughout the house. The French oak, Versailles, parquet floor pattern in all the major public spaces that were used for entertainment and so on and so forth. And then moving back into some of the more personal, more private spaces, we're still seeing some patterning in the floor, but we're starting to see herringbone. And we have straight wood floors. The decor starts to tone down, the floors tone down as well. Other things just sort of make mental notes as we go. Chandelier, mirrors, large windows. It's going to be a repeating theme here. If you're going to do French style, you've got to make sure the stair is right. Stone curb, the wrought iron, the bronze. Don't despair. We don't have to all have highly gilded and ornamental stairs. This happens to be in the Carnavalet. The wrought iron and the handrail are much simpler, far more approachable and believable in today's world, certainly. But again, curb, stone. This slide really sort of gets to what it is that got me all excited about the detailing that we were seeing. Here, in this picture, there are 4 different profiles and an absolutely incredible door jamb. They all have shapes, curves in them. They're very dynamic, full of energy. So they're using the same pieces of trim in different kinds of rooms, and it all depends on how they're treated and how they're expressed, that sort of raise and level, raise up or down an embellishment in the room. And I just found that to be absolutely fascinating. As an aside, most people, when we work with them and they ask us to do French style, they want very ornate door hardware. The reality is, that's what you see. It's very simple, very unassuming, almost trying not to be there. Crown moldings, transition from walls to the ceiling. We saw a lot of soft curves and arcs expressed different ways. You can use that arc as a way of, as either becoming part of the paneling coming to the ceiling or the ceiling coming down to the paneling. So they use that in a number of different ways. This one's actually fairly simple. It's in a less public area. This was actually in an apartment on the left bank, in one of the back rooms of the apartment. And here's an example of when you get the exuberant detailing, how it gets scaled down when you move in from the large chateaus into a small apartment in Paris. Here's a room that's long and rectilinear, and what do? We start to change the shape of the medallion, and the shape of the trim on the ceiling begins to reflect and reinforce the shape of the room. And then lighting, this is the other thing. I'm also a lighting junkie, and I feel very strongly you can get your whole house right, and if you screw up the lighting, you might just as well have not done anything else. I mean, you got to get the lighting right. In a foyer, if you're doing French style, it's lanterns, 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 right?
Do a lantern.
Do a lantern. Here we are. We've got our wall, our crown, our ceiling, our cove. In this case, it's a huge dome. Ornamentation, medallion. It's all, you can all see it starting to come together, and all these elements starting to work together and complement each other. And this is where I tell people, this is when it starts to get really yummy. Moving out of the foyer into the rest of the house, there's there's really a triumvirate of things. There's a chandelier, sconces, and the torchieres that we see repeatedly throughout the older French homes. Big windows, really important. This is all they had. They had candlelight and big windows. That was it. The chandeliers, we saw all different shapes, forms, sizes, and styles.
In this particular room, which had at least 8 sconces, actually every pair that I saw was a different style. And probably not very many people noticed that when they went through the room because there's so much else going on. But because I wanted to pay particular attention to the sconces, I happened to go around and look at each one, and then I realized that they weren't all identical. And that was very typical of the feeling that we got in France. I mean, they all had in common that they were about the same size, they were all gilt bronze, but they all had their subtle differences. And they were like, so, you know, it was okay.
Okay. I think this is the last slide in this sequence, but which shows this absolutely spectacular torchère. But the other thing that I want you to look at here is, where is it placed? In the corner of a room in front of a mirror. They're really trying to take advantage of as much reflectivity as possible and bounce as much of that light back out into the room and add as much brightness as they can to the room. It's really mantels and mirrors that I feel anchor and ground a room, particularly when it comes to French style. They're, more often than not, they're together, and where they're placed is important. If we look here, they're placed so that, what do we see? We see that they're reflecting back the light coming in from that large window. They're bouncing the reflections of the chandelier. We've got the reflection of another sconce at the other end of the room here. So again, they're doing as much as they can to move whatever light they've got in that room around. They're doing it as much as possible. Take a look real carefully right here. There's a mirror at the other end of the room, and we've got the chandelier and the candelabra just going back and forth with each other right on into infinity. So these mirrors are doing an absolutely wonderful job of what they're being asked to do. Here we are back at, I think this is Petit Trianon. They've cut the room at an angle, which helps sort of lessen the definition of the shape in the room. Floor to ceiling mirror, more mirror over here. So again, the room becomes undefined. It begins to feel larger than it is. And the mirror also then starts to reflect and bounce all the light around the room from the windows and from their various light fixtures in the room. This slide caught me for a number of reasons. The strength of the fireplace, the chandelier, the Belgian tapestry over here, which is quite delicate and feminine in contrast to the strength and structure of the mantel. The mirror, the large windows, the crown molding. This picture in many respects sort of sums up a lot of what it is that Sally and I saw and really began to appreciate as inherent elements of French style.